I didn't find out because of lipstick on a collar or a whisper from a friend. I found out because my living room showed up in someone else's selfie. Someone I didn't know, inside my own photo stream. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed with a memories notification. Apple's idea of romance. A slideshow of my year in little algorithmic bursts. I tapped it half asleep and saw my plant. My trailing pot hose, hanging over the edge of my bookshelf like a green waterfall. Then I saw a hand that wasn't mine tilt a wine glass toward the camera. The reflection in the glass was my TV stand. The corner nicked when we moved it in. The caption was a peach emoji. Then a black heart. The location tag said, home. Not a home. My home. It took precisely 3 minutes for the footage in my head to rearrange itself. Not disbelief. That's for people who missed the signs. I hadn't missed them. I domesticated them, arranged them like cushions. The Sundays he went to the gym with no gym bag. The AirTag that chirped once from a coat pocket that wasn't his. The second toothbrush that, must be yours, babe. Except the bristles were angled like a right-handed person's. I am left-handed. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scroll until my thumbs bled. I put the device face down on the nightstand and lay there in the blue-tinted dark, tracing the grooves of the headboard with my fingertips, counting the tiny dents the way you count breaths through a panic attack. Then I did what I'm good at. I planned. Here's a fact that sounds cold until you've lived it. Grief is a spreadsheet before it is a scream. By morning, I had a tab for evidence, a tab for logistics, a tab titled Exit, and a final tab with a single sentence. Don't give him the show he wants. Alex liked shows. He liked a twist, a spectacle, the kind of confrontation he could turn into a story later when he needed attention at a party. We worked through it, he'd say, palming my waist like I was a trophy he'd won back from some invisible enemy. We're stronger now. It would end with a kiss on my temple and the most patient smile. He collected patience the way other men collect watches. I had watched him collect a lot of things. Free months on my streaming subscriptions. A cost-free designer for his side project, because I knew Figma and he still called it that rectangle app. He collected my forgiveness too. It came easy until it didn't. I moved quietly. A Monday becomes surgical when you decide to end a life politely. I was at my laptop before the sun hit the neighboring balconies, canceling his profiles from the accounts on my card, Netflix, Spotify Family, one Adobe license I had temporarily shared. I exported a CSV of our shared expenses with neat notes, reimbursed, gift, loan. There's a tiny freedom in labeling things with what they actually are. At 9:03, I called the building manager and asked about a sublet. Technically, your name is the only one on the lease, she said, apologetic but firm. If you want him out, it's your call. I don't want to kick anyone out, I said. I want to leave well. At 11:11, an email arrived from Alex with a photo of his lunch. A burger, an IPA, the shadow of his jaw on the table. Missing you, he wrote. I stared at the angle of the photo. The camera tilted left. She was right-handed. He was left-handed. I wrote back, bring home lemons? I'm out. He sent a lemon emoji and a winking face. In the afternoon, I texted her. My favorite part of myself is the part that decided to be kind to the stranger who owed me nothing. I had her handle from the photo. It wasn't hard. Her profile was private but the bio linked to a Depop store. I bought a €5 vintage scarf and used the order chat to send a message. Hi. This is awkward. I think we've been seeing the same person. I'm not writing to fight. I'm writing to ask a yes/no question. Did he tell you he was single? If yes, I'm sorry you were lied to. If no, I'm sorry I was. Either way, I won't make a scene. I just want to know. She answered with a single minute of typing ellipses that felt like a year. Then, he told me he was almost out of something complicated. My stomach pinged, not with nausea but with the click of a puzzle piece sliding into place. Almost out. Like I was a traffic jam he was almost past. Thank you, I wrote. That's all I needed. P.S. Take the scarf. No need to ship it. Consider it hazard pay. She sent a heart. Then she typed, deleted, typed, deleted again. Finally. I'm sorry. I didn't know about your living room. Neither did I wrote. Until last night. That night, I cooked pasta and sprinkled lemon zest that he'd brought home from the corner store. He poured wine. He told me a story about the gym that was really a story about believing your own lies and naming them self-care. I kissed him goodnight with a rhythm I'd learned when I was still studying him. A rhythm that felt like pressing save as on an old document and naming the file goodbye. He fell asleep. I lay beside him and stared at the ceiling. Anxiety is bright and loud. Clarity is the softer thing that arrives afterward and suggests an itinerary. On Tuesday, I wrote a letter. Not a manifesto, nothing that could be read out loud to score points. I titled it Post-Breakup FAQ, because I am who I am. Questions like, why didn't you confront him? Answer, because closure isn't a community theater performance. It's a clean exit. Questions like, are you going to torpedo his life? Answer, no. Ship captains can sink their own boats perfectly well. I attached screenshots, dates, times, captions, nothing lurid, just enough to cut through the fog of he said she said when it inevitably started to rain. I shared the doc with 3 people. My sister, my closest friend, and to my surprise, the girl with the Depop store. I didn't owe her proof. I gave it anyway. We both deserved a humane narrative. On Wednesday, I picked up boxes and bubble wrap. I labeled in block letters. Books, hers. Kitchen, split. Tech, mine. I opened the hall closet and found the winter coat I had let him borrow last February that had never wandered back to my side of the closet. I put it in his pile. Little acts of fairness feel like oxygen when your lungs have been holding your breath for months. On Thursday morning, I went to our domain registrar and changed the passwords. The side project was registered to me. Alex had insisted early on, without a straight face, that details like that were just admin. He loved the pitch meetings and hated the calendar invites. He was charisma. I was reminders. Sometimes you wake up and realize you are stewarding a thing with someone who thinks stewardship is a fussy way to say, nagging. I wrote the clients an email that included the phrase, founder realignment, because people understand that language better than they understand heartbreak. I announced a pause on new features, a focus on stability, a promise to fulfill existing commitments. I didn't mention him by name. The signature was mine. At 1400 hours, an invitation popped up on his calendar. A dinner with a potential investor on Saturday. He had bragged about it the night before, calling it a make-or-break meal. I recognized the restaurant at once, the place with the linen napkins that felt like shirt sleeves. I RSVP'd yes from my email and then wrote the investor a separate note. Hello, I said. I won't be attending dinner. I will be stepping back. As the technical lead, I wanted to ensure you know this before Saturday. If you wish to reconsider, I understand. If you wish to proceed with Alex alone, that is also your choice. I wish you well either way. The investor replied within 10 minutes, and the reply was one of those polite messages that say everything between the lines. Thank you for the transparency. Let's reschedule for a later date. I forwarded the note to Alex with a one-line message, we'll talk Friday. We didn't talk Friday. I arranged for movers at noon while he was at the gym. They were efficient and used little triangular dollies under the furniture like magicians. I left the apartment the way I found it. Clean, quiet, mostly blank. I set his key on the counter. I kept mine. I left a package by the door, the winter coat, a stack of books we never finished together, the ceramic bowl he always said looked like the moon, a manila envelope addressed to Alex. Inside was a printed copy of the post-breakup FAQ, a photocopy of the receipt for the domain name, and a handwritten note that said only, return my grandmother's ring by post. No meetings. No negotiations. The grandmother's ring was not an engagement ring, just a small gold band I wore on a chain. He had put it somewhere safe in April. Safe things have a way of disappearing if you don't pull them back into daylight. By sunset Friday, I was sitting on a borrowed futon at my friend's place, watching the sky turn violet through a window that framed a new skyline. I ate takeout from a paper box and drank water from a mason jar because we hadn't unboxed the glasses yet. My phone buzzed on the table like a trapped fly. I let it. At 21:03, Alex called. I let it ring out. He texted, babe? And then what is this? And then after a gap, we can fix this. I turned the phone face down. He called again. I silenced the calls and blocked his number. Maybe that sounds cruel. It was self-preservation. If you don't build a perimeter, some people will eat your life fiber by fiber and call it romance. Saturday morning, I woke to a new kind of quiet. Not the quiet that begs you to fill it with explanations. The quiet that occurs after a bell stops ringing. I made coffee. I sat cross-legged in the slice of sun on the floor like a houseplant learning a new window. I opened my laptop. I wrote a short message to our group chat, which included 4 friends who would hear it anyway and, eventually, him. Alex and I have broken up, I wrote. Kindness in advance to anyone tempted to narrate this for either of us. I'll be offline this weekend. If you need context. Link. The link was the FAQ. I watched the scene by count climb and then closed the app. At noon, a courier rang my friend's bell and handed me a small box. No return address. Just my name. Inside was the ring, wrapped in a wad of tissue that smelled faintly of cologne and regret. There was a post-it attached. We should talk. I peeled off the note and dropped it in the trash. I looped the chain through the ring and held it to my neck until the metal warmed. I breathed. At 1500 hours, I got an email from a client asking if we were okay. I wrote back, yes. We are refactoring. If you code long enough, you realize refactoring is the truest metaphor for after. You keep what works. You rewrite what doesn't. You resist the urge to burn it all down just because you're angry. You make something cleaner because your heart deserves cleaner. That evening, I opened a blank playlist and named it Post-Mortem. I added songs that felt like white walls and open doors. I did not send the link to him. I added one song called After, and played it twice in a row while I folded laundry into crisp rectangles that felt like small decisions kept. On Sunday, I went to the market. I bought peaches that smelled like July even in September. I bought bread that crackled when I pressed it. The woman at the flower stall tucked an extra sprig of eucalyptus into my bouquet. For the week, she said, and I thought yes. For the week, and then another after that. Here's the part where people expect the confrontation scene. They expect the restaurant, the investor, the girl from Depop, the friends, the frozen moment with a single glass shattering into cinematic shards. I could have made that. It would have been easy. The text messages were an orchestra just waiting for a conductor. All I had to do was lift my hand. I almost did. Instead, on Sunday night, I scheduled 3 emails. The first went to the investor, confirming my withdrawal from the project and transferring all technical assets with a clean handoff. I included a clear list of passwords changed and accounts archived. I CC'd our shared inbox and then removed my access. Invisible, thorough, final. The second went to the clients, with a calendar link for anyone who needed to ask questions about timelines and deliverables. There's a kind of revenge that looks like professionalism. It leaves no mess for you to carry later. The third went only to Alex. Subject line, logistics. The body of the email consisted of a bullet list, where his things were where mine weren't, the dates the utilities would be in his name, the day the cat would be picked up by my sister because she was mine and always had been, even when he tried to rename her Pixel. At the end, please do not contact me again. If something truly urgent arises, use this address. I will check it on Fridays. No arguments. No epilogue. No debris. Monday morning, a friend texted me a screenshot of Alex's story. He had posted a photo of his hand on a coffee cup and a caption that said, "New beginnings." He added a lightning bolt emoji. It made me laugh. The boy had always loved a symbol. I didn't reply to my friend. I put my phone in a drawer and went for a run along the river I'd started to learn as if it could teach me something. The city had shifted by a millimeter since Friday. It looked the same, which is to say it looked different because I did. When I got back, there was an email in my logistics inbox from Alex, written like a legal notice without the grammar. "You blindsided me," he wrote. "You humiliated me. You owe me a conversation at least." My hands were steady as I typed. "I do not owe you a conversation. I gave you time. You spent it. This is not humiliation. This is subtraction. You will learn the difference if you want to." I hovered over send, then deleted the last line and wrote instead, "Please send any future communications through this address. I will review them on Fridays. Thank you." Sometimes the most radical thing you can say to someone who wants your chaos is, "Thank you." It hands them a mirror and refuses to twitch when they make faces into it. I didn't speak to him after that. Not when mutual friends sent me screenshots of his longer captions. A carousel of almost apologies curated for attention. Not when a voice memo arrived in my logistics inbox at 2 a.m. The audio of a man trying to cry quietly. Not when he posted a list of lessons learned that included, never let go of the one who believed in you. As if I had been a helium balloon and not a person with keys and passwords and a spine. I lived. That's the part that never sounds dramatic enough to satisfy an audience hungry for flames. I woke up. I worked. I moved into a new place with soft light that made everything look like it forgave me. I started swimming on Wednesday mornings. The lifeguard's whistle sounded like punctuation, and I liked that my body remembered how to glide after years of running toward and away. The girl from Depop, her name was Nika, sent me a message a month later. It was a photo of the scarf I'd told her to keep, tied around her ponytail on a bus with blue seats. Her caption said, "New route." I liked the message and put my phone back in my bag. Not everything needs a conversation. Sometimes a nod is a best friend. One afternoon in November, my boss asked if I could present the side project we'd salvaged into a product inside our company. "Just give me the facts," she said in that way that bosses say when they also mean, "Make it beautiful." I built slides with clean lines and faithful numbers. I told the story of a tool that had been half a romance and half a mess and was now, finally, a tool. Afterward, in the Q&A, someone asked if I regretted not fighting harder for the original team. Teams are not historic landmarks, I said. We don't preserve them for nostalgia. We preserve what's working. On the tram ride home, I passed the restaurant with the linen napkins that felt like shirt sleeves. The windows glowed. People raised glasses and titled their heads, the way people do when they want to be seen wanting. I thought of Alex's hands on those napkins, smoothing and smoothing. I thought of my own hands now, of the ring warm against my throat, of mornings that didn't require crisis management skills before coffee. I got off at the next stop and walked the long way home, past a bookstore where a chalkboard sign said, "If you're looking for a sign, this is it." Later that night, a mutual friend sent a group message, "Alex is moving. Anyone have boxes?" I stared at the request and laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because laughter was the only way I knew to mark the distance between the girl who would have rushed over with a stack of cardboard and tape and the woman who now knew that a man can pack his own life and label his own boxes and call that growth. I typed, "Try the grocery store at the corner. They always have a pile." And that was that. When people ask me if I took revenge, I tell them no because they're picturing gasoline and matches. But when I wake early on Fridays and open my logistics inbox to find nothing, when I close the laptop and make pancakes with too much butter because nobody is around to name that a habit, when I stand in a new kitchen and watch the steam rise and curl and vanish, I understand what I actually did. I didn't drag him into the town square. I didn't feed the algorithm our worst day. I built a perimeter and I kept my promise to myself. Don't give him the show he wants. That was the revenge. The good kind, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't leave you with smoke in your hair. I gave myself back every single thing he collected. My time. My passwords. My patience. My story. I archived his emails in a folder named, Completed. The subject lines looked like exit signs as I scrolled, and I smiled because that's exactly what they were. On a Saturday in winter, I took the tram to the end of the line just to see where it went. It stopped in a neighborhood I'd never visited, with a cafe that steamed up its windows and a park that looked like it held dogs and secrets. I walked until my ears hurt from the cold and I had to tuck my hands into my pockets. I sat on a bench. The sky was the soft sort of gray that asks for honesty. When I stood to leave, I felt light in the way you do after you've paid a debt you carried so long you treated it like part of your spine. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't rush to check it. I let it ring out once, twice, 3 times. I looked at the river, at my own breath going white in the air, at the way the world keeps happening no matter how carefully you once arranged it. A month later, he sent one last message to the logistics address. Subject: Thank you. Body: I think I get it now. I didn't reply. I moved the email to Completed. I closed the laptop. I made tea. The kettle clicked when it was done, and I loved the sound for its smallness, for the fact that it was mine alone to answer. Outside, the street light blinked on, one more routine I had never noticed until it kept me company. People expect revenge to be a jagged peak. But it's a plain, really, a long stretch of ground you walked across without stopping this time. Because you finally learned that you don't have to make a home out of every place you rest. The smartest endings are not explosions. They are doors that close softly, with hands that no longer shake. And on the other side of the door, there is a room where you put down your bag, remove your shoes, and sit on the floor in the slice of sun as if you have all the time in the world, because you do.